We are back here on the Real Estate Coffee Break. I'm John Adams, along with our very special guest, Peter Burke of Reliant Mortgage, our gold sponsor for today, and the master of all things money. Hello, Peter.
Good morning, John. Good morning, everybody out there. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you. And it's a nice Saturday, too. It's a slightly overcast, I think, at least it is here in Decatur, but a delightful early summer day. Do you have plans? When is Father's Day? Is that coming right up?
It is a week from tomorrow.
Do you have big plans?
I guess that's incumbent upon my children.
Well, as you know, Margie and I don't have any children. The closest thing we have is little Tito, and he is very weak in the gift department. So we're going to Kroger and buy some St. Louis style ribs, which I will be cooking on the big green egg.
Very nice.
Yummy. All right. We have, you have put together for the edification and enjoyment of the Coffee Break viewers and listeners, a cheat sheet of the various types of home loans. And you're going to make that available to people who pick up the phone and call you. What is that number again, please?
678-557-9759.
Very good. So what I want to do now, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I've always got this. Here we go. We're going to go right over here, and we are, in fact, going to share our screen to get started here. And we don't need to share the sound. I'm going to go ahead and share the sound just because I'm afraid not to. There we go. And there's a picture of you and your phone number and your company and various license numbers. But the reality is, you are the sort of go-to guy, Peter, for real estate lending questions. And I send people call me every day with, can I use this type of loan in this type of situation? And you've got so many different loans you offer that I find myself sometimes confused. And so you've put together a cheat sheet. Could we go over that right now?
We can. Let's do it.
All right, good. Here we go. I'm going to have to get out of this, zip, and get into, now I can't find it, see? Look at this. Look how confusing this is. This is very confusing. Wait a minute. PDF. Here it is. And so you've put together a loans at a glance cheat sheet. Are you seeing that on your screen, I hope?
I am not.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Well, then we need to stop the share and we need to start over. Let's try this. Bingo. Are you seeing a picture of yourself?
I am.
Does it say loans at a glance?
It does.
We're in the right place because this is the cheat sheet for home loans that you have put together for us. And so I am going to scroll down here. And number one is a loan that I think a lot of people get started with. This is the FHA loan. And it says affordable housing program with easier credit requirements and down payments. Is that why many people start with an FHA loan, maybe on their first house?
That's exactly why. The qualifications, the bar is lower than a conventional loan. And you can buy a single family, you can buy a duplex, triplex, or quad, as long as you're going to move into it with 3.5% down payment.
Would this make sense potentially for someone listening who is thinking about getting started in real estate investing? They come across a 4-unit building or even maybe a duplex, and they're willing to live on one side and rent out the other. Would this potentially work?
That is a great idea. Move into it, get the other side rented. Once you're comfortable and you want to move on, keep the loan in place,
I like
Get
it.
another property and put a tenant on the side that you used to live in and hold it for 30 years. You'll retire wealthy.
Well, that's the whole goal, isn't it? Um, if someone adopted that strategy and they really only plan to stay there 18 to 24 months, assuming they didn't miss any payments, would the lender have any problem with them moving on, but continuing to own that property after, let's say, 24 months?
The lender would not have any problem with it.
Good, good. All right, well, let's move on down then. And the next is, and I'm particularly pleased that this is still available. My dad, rest in peace, fought in World War II. And long after the war was over and long after his term of service was ended, he came to me and he and my mom wanted to buy a house over by Agnes Scott College where he taught. And as I recall, we got hold of you and you said, well, Mr. Adams, aren't you a veteran? And he said, oh, yeah, but that was many, many years ago. And you said it didn't matter. And he got a VA loan and it was a pretty good deal for him.
That VA entitlement is with you for as long as you're alive. Yes.
So this is a program that is a benefit to people who have served their country, who have been honorably discharged. And so it's not just for current military, it's for veterans as well. Is that right?
Correct.
And is it is, you're saying it's a lifetime benefit?
That's exactly right. It's called the VA entitlement. Yes.
Is there a, if you're putting down, let's say, less than 20%, in fact, what is the minimum down payment required on these loans?
0.
I beg your pardon?
It's 100% financing.
Wow. So this really, for someone who is a veteran, it's worth exploring.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And they can call you about these loans, right?
Yeah. And let's take it one step further. It's the veteran or their surviving spouse too.
I did not know that. Okay. Very interesting. All right. Well, I personally believe that our veterans have given us the freedom that we all enjoy, and we can never repay them in full for their service to our country. And I, for one, am happy this program's available and that you offer that as well.
Yes.
Now, let's move on. I've always heard about this, Peter, and I've never done one. I thought USDA stood for the Department of Agriculture. What is that all about?
It is. USDA administers this loan program, and depending upon circumstances, it can be up to 100% financing, depending upon your income and census tract. And as I recall, there are parts of, I believe, Cobb, possibly Forsyth, that there are census tracts that are eligible under USDA and for buying a home to live in. And I always encourage anyone to consider USDA financing depending upon the census tract and what their income is.
You know, that is interesting because I don't think of Cobb County or even now Forsyth County as being rural or in need of a some sort of economic boost, but you're telling me, depending on the census tract and various other factors, it might be a possibility.
Yes.
And if the location qualifies and if you qualify, this is something that people should look at?
By all means.
Okay, very good. I didn't know it went to 100%. I've just never done one. Now, here we're getting to something that I think most investors are pretty familiar with, conventional loans, but it says here you can go down to as low as 3%. I thought Most conventional loans were 80, 90, 95.
Oh, conventional loans to buy a home to live in, if you qualify, you can do it with 3% down payment. Very common.
I did not know that. And without going into a lot of details, what are the flexible options that we're talking about here?
That's primarily around the mortgage insurance. There are so many various ways of considering it, separate, built into the interest rate, paid up front. It's got a lot of options. And when you're buying a house, it's worthy to consider those various options, because it makes, especially if you're getting credit from the seller.
Okay. Well, that's something else people can talk with you about, and options are a good thing. Now, we have talked before, you introduced to the public and, of course, to the coffee break audience here, the Discover loan, where we're talking about the debt to income coverage ratio, and you dubbed that the Discover loan. Tell us again just a little bit about this loan. How can it be so flexible?
Well, let's scratch that word debt to income, because that's not what it involves. We're not considering your income on your tax return, your pay stubs. We are only looking to confirm that the rental income on that property is sufficient to pay the new mortgage payment. And in some cases, it doesn't have to be sufficient. So there's a lot of flexibility. But the key takeaway is, if you're self-employed, if you don't otherwise qualify with pay stubs, or for those folks who are a few years behind in filing their tax returns, believe it or not, this is the best alternative. There is no confirmation that you filed returns. There is no need to look at them. We don't want to see them. We don't care about pay stubs. We are interested. Does the property, you have a lease, is it sufficient to pay the new mortgage payment that you're trying to apply for?
Is this a loan that I would more likely use to refinance or do some renovations or acquire it? What are the applications here?
Well, we do all three of them. We've done them to purchase vacant rental property. You want a long-term 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and you don't want to use income to qualify. Great alternative. You have a property and you're have not filed your tax returns, or your income is not sufficient, but you want to refinance it. This is the loan. Or if you're looking to purchase and renovate a property and you don't want to go through a hard money loan because of the costs, this is a great alternative because it's got a more competitive rate, a longer term, and less fees than a hard money loan. And that's the renovation side of a Discover loan. All three of them are equally popular.
Yeah, we have got people right now listening or viewing this podcast that have been thinking about doing some renovation. I know because I see them over at Home Depot buying truckloads of lumber at outrageous prices. But this type of loan is something they might want to think about, the Discover loan. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, a subset of that, and we just talked about it, but mention how a loan like that could work on if you wanted to do new construction.
So if you want to do new construction for the house you live in or a second home at the beach or mountains, if you want to build, you own a lot, you have your plans, you're looking for financing, and you're a traditionally qualifying borrower where we're using income or tax returns, That's for number 6.
Okay.
Or for an investment property, if you're doing the same thing, but we're not able to use income or tax returns, but you need renovation, we look to number 5.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Very good. Let's move right along. We're running out of time. All right. I thought somehow that down payment assistance had sort of been linked to the pandemic, and that as we came out of that phase of U.S. history, and COVID was lowering its ugly head, that down payment assistance had sort of dried up. Is that not the case?
That is not the case. Believe it or not, most down payment assistance was traditionally tied to income. And we're finding that those same down payment assistance loan programs no longer have a cap on your income. So you can now qualify for down payment assistance, which is essentially 100% financing, even if your income is higher than, the average median that we used to have to use for that. Very
Right.
interesting. One key takeaway is it's 100% financing. You'll still need funds for closing costs and the like, but to finance 100% of a home is still a pretty good deal. And in a lot of instances, these aren't geographically tied. They could be in any area.
Very interesting. If somebody is listening right now or watching us on the internet and they're saying, "Hey, I know a friend that wants to own a home, but they just can't raise this money, can't come up with the down payment." Is this something that should be considered?
Yes, most of our customers on down payment assistance come to us as the children, relative, friends of existing customers, by the way, or they're listening here.
Yeah. It's not getting a lot of press, and I'm surprised that they're still out there. Now, here is a little twist on that you first introduced to me. And the way I remember it is, at a certain point, in a certain maximum number of dollars, Fannie Mae moved from what they call conforming. They sort of limit it, and then other people step in and offer larger amounts, typically at a slightly higher interest rate, and we call those jumbo loans. But how can a piggyback first and second save me some money?
Well, let's say you're buying a home for $500,000 and you get a first mortgage for what is that, $400,000, and you get a 15% second mortgage for what is that, 37.5, something like that.
Okay.
Or I can't do the math off the top of my head, and you're only having to put down 5%. You're avoiding mortgage insurance long-term. And if your financial situation is, hey, I'm going to get my bonus at the end of the year, I'm going to pay off that second mortgage and just be left with my first. It's something where if your personal financial situation lends itself to, I'm selling a home in 3 months after I close. I don't have the funds today. Do it as a piggyback. And when you do sell your home, use those proceeds to retire that second on this new home. It's something you would want to do short term, not long term.
Okay. But there are people that find themselves in that very situation.
Yes. And if you're buying and selling in this environment and the market is slower and you're not able to sell your current home, on your new home, you may want to consider a piggyback. And then once you sell your old home, retire that second.
I'm glad we've got you around to help us with all this because there's an awful lot to remember. Now, this is one that I'm familiar with, the good old 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And this has been around since right after the Depression, right?
Yeah, I believe it was Roosevelt era. I can't remember what he called it, but that's where 30-year mortgages started coming in.
Well, and the beauty of a 30-year mortgage, and I've always recommended them because you get that stability of knowing exactly what your payment's going to be, even though the taxes and the insurance can go up. As far as the principal and the interest, that is a fixed rate throughout the 30-year term. You mentioned to me that somebody was even looking at 40 years now.
FHA is deciding as to whether 40-year fixed rate financing to bridge the qualifying gap of, well, the payment is too big on a 30-year, but on a 40-year, that borrower is qualified. I wouldn't be surprised over the short term if we see more 40-year fixed rate mortgages.
Well, I wish them well, but as you pointed out the other day, most of these loans don't make it to 10 years, right?
Now, I think the average is 6.5, 5.5.
Isn't that interesting? People, we're a very mobile society, I guess. Of course, with gas, let's don't start on gas prices. Fixed rate mortgages. And then finally, are there any circumstances, Peter, where a purchaser or somebody refinancing would really want to consider an adjustable rate mortgage? I know when I started investing full time, this was back in the 80s, and fixed rate mortgages were almost at 20%. And so everything was adjustable. But in today's environment, is an adjustable even an option anymore?
You're going to see them becoming more popular for exactly what you just said in the 80s. We're back to the 80s, maybe.
Well, I don't want to go back to the 80s. I'm forging ahead regardless of what everybody else does. So that's interesting that the market is responding. Peter, I've got right here on the screen where people can reach you, 678-557-9759. You have this in a PDF format, and we're going to do a couple of things. One, you're going to have available this cheat sheet. And if somebody wants that, what's the best way for them to get a copy of this?
They can text me an ask, and I can text them that PDF, or if they want me to email it, they can text me and I'll email it to them, or they can email me. But there's all the info.
Very good. And I know people are excited to see your license numbers, and I know that the Georgia Department of Banking and Finance is excited to see your license number.
Especially if they're listening.
My intelligence says that all of the top dogs down at the Department of Banking and Finance watch the live version. At least I hope. So anyway, Peter, you've got a lot to keep up with as I look at all of these things. Holy moly, how do you do it?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Very good. Well, it's your job, and we appreciate you, and look forward to visiting with you again next week. Once again, Peter, what is that phone number?
678-557-9759.
Fantastic. Peter Burke, thank you very much. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Saturday.